I want to give you a real example on me struggling with a bug and how I would go about solving it using my current workflow, just so you have an example of what that looks like. So here I have the game. And specifically, I've noticed that there's a bug that's a bit hard to track down, and it's related to the Enrage card. After the first pack is defeated, this buff should reset. So here's an example, just so you can see what's going on here. I have a swipe card. It does 25 damage to all enemies. When I buff, this can only apply to the owner of the card. In this case, it's the T-Rex. This should increase the damage of all of its attacks by 2, and it's it's going to double it. So now it's 50 damage, and I'm going to add it in, and now if I hover over here, it says 50 damage to all enemies. If I come here and use another one, it should double that, and now it should be 100. And that is the expected behavior. So it's kind of hard to view because I haven't finalized the actual view of the game. So let me see if I can zoom in just so, no, that's the enemy. See, the enemies that you go against, they have their own preset. They use the same card system. So if you understand one card, it gets used elsewhere. You know what you're looking at, but that's the wrong enemy unit to look at. We're looking at our friendly. Here, there's an X2 that's really hard to actually see right now. Buff has been used twice, and then there's the skill that is queued up to use it during combat. So now let's see what happens. This should all just work. I think it's just gonna one-shot them because they all have 1 HP. Well, oh, wait a minute. So sometimes solving bugs could be very fast, or it could be 10 hours. I'm hoping this one isn't 10 hours because it's going to be a little bit rough to edit. So at least for YouTube. Well, for now, we're just going to focus on one bug at a time. I have a card here that gives an armor buff to all the party members. So hopefully that allows us to survive this, just so we can have enough time to solve this one bug. At the very least, I just want to show you what the bug is. So I'm going to double that up again. I'm going to make sure this one charges in, and let's just weaken the group just to make sure they don't absolutely blast us. So they're weakened, so hopefully they do less damage now. Okay, that one went off. Okay, the bug that I'm trying to solve this one, but clearly there's a lot of bugs on this thing. The stack is still here, but the skills have been reset. This is no longer showing 100 damage to all enemies. It's showing 25. And even the attack, the auto attack is back to 1 instead of the 4 it was prior. And that is the issue that I want to solve. There seems to be a disconnect between what you see on the nameplate and what you see on the cards. The goal for me has always been to see if there is a workflow that I can create where I don't need to code. In the beginning, I wasn't really sure if this was possible given my skill set, but that is part of the reason why I haven't been creating a lot of videos for YouTube. I've been really wanting to figure this one out. The dream is to be able to make a game with my current skill sets. I spent a bit of a time trying to figure out if it's possible, and I think now it is, but there was a few days in the beginning where I wasn't sure. And I'm going to show you how my current workflow has evolved to make sure that I don't hit a wall that I can't pass. And that's basically what happened originally, where before I had all the system kind of working, I hit a wall where for every bug that I fixed, another one popped up. And at that point, what I was doing was closer to vibe coding, and nothing broke because everything was simple. And the moment that I had sufficient complexity into the project where you can just see all the issues, I hit a wall that was non-trivial. It took me like probably 50 hours of trying to figure out what's going on. And I landed on this idea. So before all this, I was using the web interface for all this stuff, and I was just like dumping all my code into whichever one I was using. I was using Gemini at one point, then I went to Claude, and it was always a little bit rough trying to move all my code there and share it. And then I had some very nice commenters in one of my videos telling me, hey, you should use Cursor. And I started using Cursor. And then it was great. It was a big upgrade, but it felt like there was always a middle software in between what I was trying to do. And I always felt like the response Cursor gave me wasn't as great as what Claude was giving me on the actual website. So then it became this thing where I had to use Cursor, but then I also had to use Claude to check Cursor's work, even though they were both using the same model. I felt like Cursor was optimizing my prompt. They got to make money somehow, right? So I assume it's not one-to-one. It felt a little bit inefficient because I still had to use Claude on the web interface. That's when I started looking around. It became apparent to me that I should be using Claude Code. The one thing that's nice about Claude Code is you can have a rule file, which is called claude.md. And the most important rule for me specifically is I've learned over this time is that, keep in mind, I'm not a real programmer. I can't solve problems in code. Or at the very least, I don't understand the syntax. I can solve problems if it's communicated in a way that I understand. One of the things that I find that works for my style is to make sure that Claude stays into planning mode as long as possible. Just that pretty much all the interactions should be in planning until we're aligned, no coding unless we have full alignment. And the idea is that the way it's written is written in a way that I can read it. It's not code syntax, but I will read every single word in it and make sure that I understand the system put in here. Claude's very eager to just immediately try to go into coding. So a lot of my effort here is just being like, no coding, please. Because the moment it starts coding and I'm not aligned with it, I lose control of my project. So the idea is that it's basically writing me a book and I'm going to go read that book. And if I see a word that I don't like, I have to go in there and edit it. There's some very important code principles that I have to basically spam every message because the moment, so I think this one's the most important one right here. And if you're a programmer and you're watching this, you're like, yeah, okay. It seems obvious to programmers, but for me, it wasn't, is this concept of SSOT, and it's single source of truth. This is where it was causing me like an actual wall because I didn't know about this concept. When I was trying to solve a bug that was sophisticated, where I would solve it in one place and then it will break somewhere else, I quickly learned, not quickly, it took a long time. This is like multiple days of like what's going on here. But eventually I learned that just spam this. Just make sure that it's SSOT compliant. And also, I think my communication style can basically tell how do you like to be communicated with. For me, it's just conversational, beginner friendly, but don't make me feel stupid kind of thing. If you tell it like, oh, explain it to me like I don't know what I'm talking about, it just keeps using analogies and like, I don't need you to tell me a story. I just need you to speak concisely with me. But if it just keeps telling me like stories it just gets a little bit, get to the point. So this is how I've framed the issue we've been looking at in game. One thing to keep in mind is if you want Claude to use its full capacity for the prompt you're creating, you use UltraThink. And I basically just keep spamming this just to ensure that it maximizes its capacity when it's trying to solve my problem. I have a tool where it allows me to take my whole card prefab, find the card that's the problematic card, just so I can get Claude the maximum context it needs. I'm going to give this all to Claude. Right now, I'm on Windows. I was hoping to integrate Claude Code into Cursor so I can use Cursor's UI to interact with Claude Code. When you see it online and people getting that to work, it's mostly just Apple or Macs. I'm on Windows, so it actually doesn't work on Windows. So that's why you see me open up Cursor, because that's my IDE, but the actual Claude Code is just terminal. Unfortunately, it does not work on Windows, at least as I understand it right now. Copy this. I need to get into Claude, so Claude, and now I'm just going to give it my problem. It gets a little bit buggy sometimes when I copy paste a lot of code. All right, so it's giving me some options to choose from. Yeah, it's just not okay. So cons doesn't actually fix the problem. This is why it's super important to stay in planning, because if I didn't have all those rules in my document, saying, hey, we got to be aligned before you start coding, it would immediately go with the recommended option that still has bugs in it, and it'll just start implementing it. My rule is it has to pass the audit twice back to back before I call it accurate. If I ask the same question and I get the same response after a full audit, that means it's good enough. But oftentimes what you'll find that if you ask the same question again, if you get some additional information that was missing prior, that's a hint that you should keep doing that until you're getting back a consistent reply. At least that's how I'm using it right now. This is the challenge with this approach. It's brutal when it doesn't work. If it doesn't get resolved, it all gets documented. And in my case, I document it and put it back into the plan and then keep working on the plan because there's clearly something wrong with the plan. Break it down into multiple parts so that there aren't as many moving pieces, because I think that Claude is losing context. There's just so much going on. There's so many moving pieces that it's not able to execute on the level that I need it to. So I had a chance to work on the bug. I know the last time it took about 5 hours before I realized that I needed to break the task into smaller steps. And that's what I did. And the realities are sometimes I don't know if the task is so large that Claude can't actually do it. So I ended up doing the same task, but instead of trying to do it all in one big one shot, I broke it down into 3 different phases. It was a lot easier. So instead of spending 5 hours, I think it took like 30 minutes. It's weird because it was actually easy, but trying to do it all at the same time made it extremely hard for Claude. Here's an example of the same game. And I'm just going to play everything. So the main thing that I'm looking for here is if I go into the scene view and find the character and turn this off, where are they? They're over here. So the thing that I'm looking for is I want this 3-stack Enrage buff to get cleared after the pack is defeated. So that's what I'm looking for. And that was the bug that wasn't getting cleared last time. So hopefully this time, at least last time I checked, this should all clear now. I've increased the damage, so it should pretty much one-shot them. And now you'll see the buff has been successfully cleared. So that bug has been resolved.